Today on Weekend Review, amidst the gas transmission pipeline in Prince Rupert, there has been a sudden opposition arise. Strikes around major transportation companies are affecting workers in the Northwest, and the BVX makes its return to Smithers for the 105th time. Hello and thank you for joining us here on Weekend Review, where we recap the latest news in the Northwest. Well, with the gas transmission pipeline in Prince Rupert, there has been a sudden opposition amount as construction gets underway. Jaylene Matthews with CFTK has the rest.
On August 21st, over 300 people attended a pipeline impact meeting hosted by local youth organizers of the Skeena Watershed Conservation Coalition. Concerns expressed were around the potential environmental impact of the Prince Rupert gas transmission pipeline and the Casilla Sims terminal. The proposed pipeline is currently undergoing environmental assessment. The Prince Rupert gas transmission pipeline would start in the northeast of BC and end in the estuary of the Nass River at the proposed Casilla Sims LNG terminal. The pipeline would cross the Babine, Susquehanna, Salmon, Chigunya, Skeena, Kispiox, and Nass rivers. Critics of the project say the damage done by trenching through, hanging over, and tunneling under the rivers, creeks, and streams to build the pipeline would be too great. Nisga'a community members have announced they will be pursuing an injunction against construction. The Gatineau hereditary chiefs burned a benefits agreement they signed 10 years ago with the pipeline's previous ownership, a project that didn't go ahead and was restructured into the current proposal. The Gatineau hereditary chiefs have now set up a blockade at Cranberry Junction, where the access road for the project meets Highway 37. Local and recreational traffic are being permitted to cross, but not LNG transport vehicles, who have been forced to reroute. In an August 1st statement, the president of Bechtel Energy, the company selected to oversee the project, Paul Marsden, called the project an exciting opportunity to show how major energy infrastructure can and should be developed in partnership with Indigenous communities. Marsden said the project will be to the highest standards of safety and environmental protection and create jobs and support economic development. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Going forward, it may get tough for air travelers soon, with Air Canada's pilot strike set to start in a few weeks unless an agreement is made between the airline and the Airline Pilots Association.
We've sat here tied to a sub-inflationary contract for a decade.
That is Jesse Yancey, who is a pilot himself, but is also speaking for the 98% of pilots who voted in favor of job action, demanding better pay, retirement, and quality of life conditions working for Air Canada. After a 10-year contract that started in the summer of 2014, Yancey echoes that these pilots need to be rested and attentive to do their jobs.
The biggest one I think we see right now with our pilot group, our work rules haven't changed in a decade to keep up with the way the airline operates now. Our pilots, when they're at work, we want to be working. We want to be flying people around, not sitting in layover cities in a hotel, not being productive. That's just another day on the road.
And in terms of working hours, the Airline Pilots Association feels as though that their scheduling could use more consistency, especially considering months of training that must be given to pilots to land in those different cities.
One trip I could, on my fleet, I could operate to London, Heathrow, or Dubai, and another trip I could operate from Toronto to Vancouver. A lot of people seem to think we just fly a specific route, but there's a lot of variation in our day-to-day schedule. There's a lot of variation in our work hours.
Yancey notes that bargaining can typically be contentious, but a 10-year deal is far too long, and he expanded on why the next deal should not reach a decade long.
A 10-year collective agreement is almost unheard of. I honestly can't think of another labor group that has had something like that. Our legacy peers in the States, Delta, United, American, have all undergone 2 to 3 rounds of bargaining. WestJet, for example, is now on their second collective agreement. There's a lot of ground that we have to cover to try and modernize our collective agreement so that it reflects today's operating environment, today's economic environment, and the global environment of of pilot demand.
However, Air Canada pilots are reassuring customers that their goal is not to strike, with September 18th as the walk-off date in which they will have to put forth an announcement of 72 hours before if they are to strike.
I think the big point for our passengers to keep in mind here is our goal is not to strike. Our goal is to achieve a collective agreement that appropriately reflects the value we bring to our airline. Our members have shown up for the last year, ready, willing, and able to reach a new collective agreement. And in the next 3 weeks, the onus really is on Air Canada to finally come to the table and truly, meaningfully bargain with us so that we can reach a collective agreement, avoid any sort of work action.
From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
Announced earlier this week, people in Hartley Bay and Digby Island are now able to access high-speed internet, which should unlock faster access to digital services. Built by City West, there were 85 households in Hartley Bay and 48 households in Digby Island installed. Additionally, this also means that the Prince Rupert Airport will have access to faster-paced internet as well. This is part of the 2017 initiative put out by the BC government, investing $584 million to implement connectivity throughout the province. And as of January 2024, about 80% of remote homes have access to high-speed internet. Up next, the RCMP have put out another appeal after a family went missing 35 years ago. Welcome back. Also announced this week was the province starting their recruitment and training initiatives for the upcoming school year. This recruitment is to get more certified teachers into BC classrooms and to build the workforce from kindergarten up until grade 12. Headlined at Future Ready Action Plan, the province plans to support with $12.5 million over 3 years towards these programs, while focusing on supporting teacher retention, improving flexibility, and to hire more teachers in remote areas. Since a teacher shortage reported in 2021, the province is expecting about 1,700 international teacher applications in 2024, which is a 1.5 times increase. Now, rail workers in the Northwest have been hit with a surge of changes in their working life, with a developing story on the disagreement between CN and CPKC with Teamsters.
It's the news that's covering the headlines across the country and can especially affect residents in the Northwest. With lockouts issued officially on Thursday, Minister of Labour Stephen McKinnon issued a third-party arbitration for Teamsters and the CN and CPKC.
Under Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code, I've directed the Canada Industrial Relations Board to assist the parties in settling the outstanding terms of their collective agreements by imposing final binding arbitration.
However, announced this morning, the union issued a 72-hour strike notice towards CN Rail. I spoke to Teamsters Director of Public Affairs, Christopher Monette, to provide some clarity on why both parties still remain far apart.
Our members have grueling schedules. They're on call almost 24/7. When they do get that call, they have 2 hours to present to work. They don't know then afterwards, they're going to be back the same day, the next day. And our members are giving in excess of 80 hours a week to their employers. This obviously wreaks havoc in personal and family lives, but it also poses a fatigue-related safety risk insofar as it's difficult to consistently show up rested and fit for duty because of these pretty intense schedules.
And just over 24 hours into this developing story, things are moving quick, and Monette made it clear that they still don't expect this to drag on longer than a matter of days.
Well, historically, disputes in the rail industry have been very short-lived. We're talking days, not weeks. CN, they made $4.1 billion in net profits last year. Divide that by 365 and you get an idea of what kind of pain they're under here. That, if I can be reassuring, is that there's no way that this can go on for weeks.
Many may jump to assuming that the disagreements between the parties are due to compensation, but it is rather about the conditions for the railroad workers. And Monette noted that the Teamsters have made several offers, but none of them were seriously considered.
Rail workers, like pretty much all workers, deserve to see their working conditions improve with time rather than erode. If it was just about dollars and cents, we probably would not be talking right now. The main issues here have really been these demands for concessions. We are basically fighting to keep what we have right now. And unfortunately, both CN and CPKC are gung ho about getting rid of as many of our protections around scheduling and fatigue as possible.
From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
The BC Wildfire Service has lifted its last remaining wildfire of note designation as the number of blazes burning in the province has now dropped to below 300. The Wildfire Service lifted the designation from the Coria Creek blaze close by the city of Terrace, meaning there are no longer any fires that the service deems as highly visible or potentially posing a threat to people or public safety. But a fire information officer said that this does not mean the wildfire season is now over, as more than 700 firefighters and 100 aircraft are still out battling the over 200 blazes. 35 years after an entire family went missing in BC, RCMP have put out another appeal. Jaylene Matthews has more.
In August of 1989, 26-year-old Ronnie Jack, his wife Doreen, of the same age, and their two sons, Russell, 9, and Ryan, 4, had recently relocated to Prince George. Ronald and Doreen were looking for work. According to a 2019 police report, investigators believe Ronnie spoke to a man at the First Leader pub on the evening of Tuesday, August 1st. They believe Ronnie and Doreen were offered jobs at a logging camp or ranch thought to be about halfway to Vanderhoof on Highway 16. As Ronnie and Doreen did not own a vehicle, the unknown man offered to drive the Jack family to the camp or ranch. The man accompanied Ronnie back to his residence about 4 blocks from the pub and waited while the family packed. Ronnie called his brother at 11:16 p.m., then 2 hours later his parents at 1:21 a.m. At approximately 1:30 in the morning, the Jack family drove off with the man in a dark-colored 4-wheel drive pickup truck. The unknown male was described as Caucasian, 35 to 40 years old, over 6 feet tall, and between 200 and 275 pounds, with reddish-brown hair and a full beard. It is believed that shortly after the phone call with Ronnie's parents, the family departed their home. Although they were expected to return in 10 days, they have never been seen since.
Then he said, we'll be back in 8 days, Mom, don't worry about us. But if I don't come back, look for me.
Both the RCMP and the Jack family's relatives have never stopped searching for them. There's also a Facebook group dedicated to the search. And recently in Prince George, a vigil was hosted to mark 35 years since their disappearance. The RCMP have searched several possible properties for the Jack family over the years to no avail. Since they were reported missing on August 25th, 1989, the Prince George RCMP say they have conducted hundreds of interviews and obtained or created thousands of documents as part of the investigation.
Now, 35 years since the family's disappearance, RCMP are once again appealing to the public for information.
If you have any information, please contact the Prince George RCMP at 250-561-3300 or anonymously contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
In a recent press release, the District of Kitimat directly addressed what has been occurring revolving around the fires that are around them. The report said that the blaze was found the previous weekend at around 6 o'clock in the evening, with the Kitimat Fire Department responding to it immediately. A then wildland fire truck along with the water tenders made their way to the scene and eventually, with help from the Haisla Nation Volunteer Fire Department, to put out the blaze. Currently, the fire has been contained to the point where it is now seen as under control, and the firefighters were able to make sure it didn't affect any other buildings. However, the exact cause of the fire is still under investigation. After the break, talking sticks are on the move and going home. Hello again. Well, a talented young artist has been brightening up the Pump House Trail area. CFTK's Jaylene Matthews met up with Sabrina Williams to hear her about her passion.
Spring Creek is one of the most popular trailheads for local hikers and bikers to get up into the mountains. Outdoors enthusiasts can expect a sunny new welcome to Spring Creek Trailhead next time they visit, as the formerly unassuming pump house is the latest mural project from the Skeena Salmon Arts Festival Society. The vibrant design is the work of Sabrina Williams.
A lot of my ideas, they come from mostly nature itself, as while I was growing up around the villages, my home villages of Gitnea and Kitwanga, we're always taught to appreciate every little bit of nature because it provides for us. So we mostly have the two little flowers and the butterfly, and then on that other side we have the big sun.
The 21-year-old was a self-taught artist from a young age before attending the Frida Deasing School of Northwest Coast Art, from which she graduated last year.
For me, I'm trying to, as I go along with my art, I'm trying to break the boundaries of traditional, to break the rules, you gotta learn them. And with traditional Northwest Coast art, we have mostly red, black, white, and the occasional teal. And I've just been wanting to branch out and make my own art style.
Williams says this is her first mural, and her team here is mostly her family.
So I'm glad they showed up to help, especially the ones that are a lot taller than me.
And according to Williams, they're getting close to the final strokes. For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Provincially, we have an update on rent around British Columbia. From the Ministry of Housing, they are tying the annual allowable rent increase in 2025 to inflation at 3%, down from this year's 3.5%. The Minister of Housing, Ravi Kalon, noted that this tie will save renters hundreds of dollars to protect renters from unfair hikes. In addition, the province has also implemented the annual renters tax credit, which provides a $400 to a year to low and moderate income renters across BC. The maximum allowable rent increase cannot take effect before January 1st. Two talking sticks that were displayed for many years on the wall of the Terrace City Council chambers will finally be sent home after a timely process of discovering their true origins. Once again, here's Jaylene Matthews.
Back in 2016, then Councillor Michael Prevost put a motion on the floor to attempt to repatriate two talking sticks, whose exact origins at the time were unknown.
We looked into that and found out that they'd come from this area called Kingcome, but we never really connected properly with the folks there. We were struggling back and forth, and it just kind of fell off the table.
Eventually, a newspaper article about the sticks came to the attention of Marianne Nicholson, an artist and cultural researcher. She believed the sticks were perhaps from her home at Kingcome Inlet of the Kwakwaka'wakw peoples.
And then I had coffee with my friend Luann Neal, and she was telling me she was heading up to Terrace, and I asked her, I said, can you look into this for me? And so when she went up, that's when everything really started to roll.
Marianne sent a photo of the sticks to her nephew Ryan, who's also a cultural researcher. Ryan was able to locate a photo from their archives and identify the sticks as the same ones as pictured.
He scans through the photos to look for our old things, and then he's like, there it is. And it's quite remarkable because it's not very easy to see in the photo, but once you can see it, you recognize, oh, that is it right there.
This will be the first piece coming back to Kingcome as a result of recent repatriation efforts from Marianne and her community.
Like I would say thousands of cultural items, information and material left this community over the last 100 years.
The city of Terrace must now decide exactly how the sticks are getting back.
How they're going to get to Kingcome is yet to be determined, but we're not they need to be brought there by somebody. So if somebody from King Cum comes and get them, or if we take them to King Cum, that has yet to be decided. But hopefully we'll be doing that sooner than later and get these talking sticks home soon.
Nicholson says when the works return home, they can go back to being used for their real intended purposes.
You know, our material wasn't actually meant to be seen in galleries. It's actually meant to be part of ceremony, and so with the revival of our ceremonies and the revival of our cultural ways, then, you know, we really need our materials to return home so that we can study them and revive those traditions.
For CFTK News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Still to come in Smithers, it was another successful year for the BBX. Towards the end of the previous week, the Terrace Sportsplex played host to a ringette training camp that was run by the National Ringette School. The camp attracted about 63 total young athletes, with quite a few of them being from Terrace, but also saw people from places like Smithers and Houston attend, as well, with it also being the first time this camp has ever been held in northern BC. Along with the on-ice work, the camp also included training staff off of the ice as well, which saw the athletes work on the likes of strength training, team building, and even learned about proper nutrition. And as a way to hopefully get more people to play the game, a Come Try Ringette event will be held at the same place on September 15th and will be available for everyone older than 3. While in Smithers, the Bulkley Valley exhibition was underway this weekend with rodeos, vendors, and live music coming together to finish off the summer on a high note. The fair has been around since 1919, and as Jaylene Matthews reports, it's still going strong.
The weather cooperated and the crowds came out for the annual Bulkley Valley exhibition.
Yesterday it was a record day for us. Yesterday, Saturday here at the BVX, it was an all-time record for us.
Along with the music, rodeo, and food, the event also features vendors and demonstrations like wood carving.
That's the gig to be at this weekend. I carved a lot of things live and people really enjoyed watching me doing demonstrations here with my saws and transforming a block of wood into a chicken, for example. Yeah, that's this year's. They steal the show. I carve a lot of nice looking stuff like bears, beavers, eagles, owls, you name it, but the chickens, that's it this year.
And we even found some elected officials in the crowd.
A few raindrops, but overall this is an amazing event. And you just think about the fact that it's been going on for, I think, over 100 years here in the Bulkley Valley. Something people look forward to every year.
We had a fella here this morning looking for support for their kid, and there was some flaw in the system. And those are great because it gives us and me the real living proof of something that is intended this way, but it's not quite working out. Could we change it? Could we appeal it? That kind of stuff I love, because then we take all the notes, get the information, and with a fall fair, something like this, with just hundreds of people, and you just every once in a while you get something that, you know, if we can fix this, it's going to really change someone's life. So that's kind of a real bonus. You just don't expect it all the time.
And if you missed the BBX but still want to hit the carnival, Shooting Star Amusements will be taking their setup on the road in the Northwest.
We leave here, we're going to go to Kitimat for a couple of days, and then we end up in Terrace on the weekend, and then back down to the coast.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Week in Review here on CFTK-TV. Make sure to tune in on Tuesday for the newscast as well at 5, 6, and 11 o'clock. But for now, happy long weekend.